Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk 20's episode 3. It's been a little over a week now. I'm going to try to start scheduling people, interviewing people more consistently so that way I can hopefully upload an episode once a week. Right now it's a little hectic, but I'm going to try to aim for one episode a week. But for episode 3, I'm with my dear friend Nate. Nate, what's up?
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this actually. This is stuff I actually think about a lot, and I love talking to people about it. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. After the first episode, when I did it with Connor, who just so happens to be your older brother,
Right.
you were one of the first people who responded and texted me or gave me feedback and said that you want to get on as soon as you can. So I definitely wanted you on one at some point in time, but obviously the sooner the better. And I'm going to introduce you kind of how we met. I mean, obviously, I was friends with Connor, and you're his younger brother, but our friendship wasn't just because of that. I mean, we were, I would like to think, great friends in high school, especially through band and stuff, because you also were a trombone player. But do you remember the first time that we met?
I do. I actually very much do. It's very specific actually. I think it was freshman year, and I was just getting new to marching band. It was like one of the first rehearsals, and you told me to do something a certain way to help me out. Just because you were just trying to help me because I'm new, and that is the first time I think I ever really we talked. I mean, we weren't friends at that time, but that's when you introduced yourself and made yourself known to me. Um, yeah.
Huh. I honestly don't remember that first interaction, but I mean, I vaguely remember the very beginning of you getting into high school and starting off in band and your passion for music and the trombone and marching band, all that was definitely way more than mine. And you're, a hundredfold better of a player than me. But um, no, it was awesome to see from freshman year, and then you blossom into this freaking machine on the trombone, dude. I mean, you still keep up with it a little bit, right? Or no?
I mean, not really. I've been taking it a little bit more seriously lately because I've started enjoying playing in ensembles again. Like playing in
Yeah.
orchestra, playing in wind ensemble. It's that like desire to be in those groups has really blossomed again. I feel it again. So I want to be in orchestra, especially since you know I think next semester. I don't know. I don't know what the schedule is like, but I know before COVID, the orchestra was practicing to play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which is his most popular symphony.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I really want to play that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. That's
that would be
awesome.
that would be really cool. And as a composer, it's always nice to hear these things in the ensemble and see what I have on the page. Because I mean, I will have to do much playing because at that time trombone wasn't used much. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, and then you also just recently had your own piece of music performed, correct?
yes, yes, yeah. It was a world premiere by Kennesaw State University Wind Ensemble on the 20th of April, 420. Imagine that. um, it was wonderful. They those people, like all the players, just put in so much
Executed it.
work. They really did. I was so happy, and I could really tell that most of them were putting in everything, and it just it was so nice to see that unfold, and it was just
Yeah.
it was just nice to see. It was
Whether
just
you're
nice
a
to see.
band nerd or not, I mean, that's something that you got to think is pretty cool to for someone to compose their own piece of music and then have it performed by a university ensemble. I think that's awesome, man. Um,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about the topic today, Nate. This is something that, as of now, is very applicable to you, and it's always applicable to me, and honestly, everyone
Right.
is emotions, emotional vulnerability, and kind of like the misinterpretation of emotions, especially being in your 20s when you have so many life obstacles and milestones and this and that, and it can be a lot to handle. And I think emotionally, it can be overwhelming at times, and a lot of times emotions are suppressed and misinterpreted. And I think that's a problem that everyone can constantly improve on, including myself.
Yeah, I mean, they're they're so unpredictable. That's why they're so hard to deal with, is that you just don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
And the only way you can really deal with them is getting used to them, but that there's many different ways you can go about that, and it's different for everybody. So,
Well, that leads
yeah.
into my first question: is kind of what do you think what do you think are the misinterpretations of emotions?
Well, so I talked to some people at work about this, about, when people are going through a hard time, um, their friends will usually, or, just anybody they talk to about their hard times, they'll usually say, "Hey, it's going to be okay. You got this." And on one level, that's fine. But that kind of, for me, I'm like, you're going to be okay. So that means you're not okay right now. And, maybe you're not, maybe you're not okay. But I, I think in a way it's better to say, "Hey, everything is okay right now. I know it doesn't feel okay, but it's okay to feel like crap,"
Yeah.
basically.
Or
Like,
feel any kind of way, really.
yeah, yeah. Well, especially like crap, because people associate feeling bad with "I'm not okay," and that's not necessarily true.
Right.
And so I've been thinking about it, and I was like, I feel like that whole side of the argument is, I don't know. It's just, it should be a lot more normalized.
Yeah, well,
Like,
why do you think they are misinterpreted? Why do you think people have that notion that um that they are currently not okay, or they have that this kind of end goal of feeling okay, but in the moment they're kind of suppressing how they feel and all of that. Why do you think people kind of suppress or misinterpret their feelings in the now?
um, because emotions are hard to understand. Um, Sometimes they happen for a specific reason. Sometimes they happen for no reason whatsoever. And that's what's so difficult about dealing with them is, like, you just, it's hard to know, like, what exactly is causing the emotion, especially if you're doing well and all of a sudden you start feeling a certain way. Like, you start feeling like, really anxious in a specific moment, and you're just like, well, I was feeling fine yesterday and the day before. But sometimes you just feel bad, like, because emotions are, they're a defense mechanism. And um, but I feel like people just don't want to feel bad ever, and they're so desperate to just feel good. And that, that could have to do with society, you know pinning feeling bad with your falling apart, or it could, just be the individual you know misinterpreting it. And it's there's no one will ever feel the same emotions as somebody else. Like, well,
Very
I shouldn't
true.
say it like, yeah, I shouldn't say
In
it like
terms
that.
of it being in the same situation, everyone has their own tolerance to emotion or reaction to certain things. So yes, I know what you're trying to say there.
Right, right.
Um, I think that's very true. I think they're misinterpreted because, well, like you said, people kind of have to. I don't want to say convince themselves that they're going to be okay because what they're feeling in that exact moment is too much. But in a way, it's kind of like you said, a defense mechanism, and that can translate to any emotion, like you said, anxiety, nervousness, anger, depression, really anything. Um, what where are you at right now in terms of that, from the transition from kind of suppressing your feelings and all of that to accepting how you feel in the moment? Do you think you're better at accepting how you feel now, or are you still working on trying to not suppress how you feel?
Yeah, I think it's been harder for me recently to feel because as well, for me, as I've gotten older, I've had to take on more responsibility. And that leads to the emotions being stronger and more powerful and more just present. And it's hard to deal with, um, you know. So that's why people, especially in college and in their 20's, they spend most of it dealing with that and getting used to this increase in in intensity of these emotions, because it's hard being an adult. It just is. It's hard for everybody, and I mean, for me, it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely not easy. But what has helped me has been, I've been meditating. That has really helped me just calm down and see things from a different point of view. And music obviously helps. Talking to people very much helps, actually. But the number one thing for me is just letting yourself feel like
Hmm.
that. For me, I think that's the only way you can truly deal with emotions properly is letting yourself feel.
That's such
If
a
you're,
hard thing.
it is such a hard thing, but your feelings have a way of telling you I'm good. They do. Let's say you're really angry and you want to start like grabbing things and throwing things. Well, get a pillow and just start punching it. Seriously. Like, I'm serious. Like, I mean, it's a little ridiculous, but you need to get that energy out. You can't force that to go away. You need to yell, you need to get it out, and you need to keep going until your body is like, okay, I'm good. Your emotions will tell you that. They just will. Even if you don't know they're telling you that, your body you would just kind of sit down. Like most people who get through that, oh man, I'm feeling very emotional. I need to let it out. Like most people after that will just sit, or they'll just they'll lay on the ground, lay on their bed, and they'll just lay there. Um, and sometimes that can lead to depression and sadness. But
Yeah,
it's you just have to get those things out. You
yeah.
just have to.
I think you know, like you just said, a lot of people. I think it to kind of talk about something else briefly that you touched on, and could be a whole nother topic, is um kind of having the ability to move along from a obstacle or hardship or whatever, and that comes with a whole nother set of emotions and variability from person to person. But it's so hard to feel how you feel and kind of accept it.
Yeah,
um but I think something, I mean, even with, let's just say, college, for example, just because it's something that we relate to. I remember when I had like 4 exams in 1 week and this and that. I'm like, holy crap, dude! Like this is gonna be the worst week ever. I'm not gonna get through this. I'm gonna fail my exams. And then Friday rolls around. Guess what? I got all my shit done. I did decent on all those exams. So I felt what I felt, the test anxiety and all this stuff, and trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to schedule studying and getting all my assignments done and all that. But I got it done. And I think that is a similar method and metaphor for your emotions and how you handle certain situations when um, something arises or a challenge
yeah,
arises. And you kind of have to feel what you feel and accept it. Because I almost want to say, if you suppress the feelings and your emotions, you almost kind of compound that nervous energy or whatever it is until you finally can't take anymore. And then it's too much.
dude, absolutely. And another misconception that I think people have is, and this is truly because of society and what people say. Like a lot of people who are going through stuff, they'll say like, "Oh, you're gonna be fine." You're gonna be fine. I don't like it when people say that initially because it's not. easy. It's hard. It's very difficult and it's painful and it's just hard. And you need to tell them that. You just need to tell them that. I'm like, you feel like crap right now. It's not going to be easy and it's going to be a struggle. But your emotions are working cycles. Like you can't be low forever. You have to eventually go up. Just as you can't be high forever. You have to eventually go down. It's the equilibrium point. Like,
Yep.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so regardless of how you're feeling, if you are been down and down, in the weeds for weeks because of a certain event, if you just let yourself feel those things, you will 100%, not 90, 95, 99.999%, 100% go up and start feeling better. You will. And the only way that will ever happen is if you just let yourself feel like crap and keep moving.
There is light at the end of the tunnel, as they say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's, I don't know if that is a personality thing or us being guys, and maybe it's different for women. But I'm kind of mostly with you on the idea of not really liking when people tell me that oh man, it'll be all good, you'll get through it or whatever. It's like, man, I understand that. Like, no
Yeah.
crap, man. I'm gonna obviously keep trying to fight and do what I can, but at the same time, um, I'm not okay at the moment, and I
Yeah.
don't want to say that it gets sugar coated, but it kind of goes hand in hand with almost diverting how you feel and kind of like distracting your mind and yourself from how you truly are. That can work temporarily, but in the long run, it's really not a healthy habit to kind of um, suppress how you feel and suppress, you know, what emotions you're feeling in certain situations. I personally don't think longevity wise, it's going to be a overall beneficial thing for you if you keep doing that. So I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree. Um, well, tell me about kind of how you've grown into the whole suppressing versus accepting, like from your early adulthood within the last few years. How have you noticed that you've grown into be more of an emotional, vulnerable person instead of being bottled up like a lot of people are?
Yeah. It's definitely not been easy. Very early on in college, my going into my second semester, sophomore year, I ended up in rehab because I suppressed too much and I use, marijuana to cope with my feelings and it exploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've learned a lot from that experience and a lot about myself. And so I still think about that a lot, but like there's no set way of dealing with your emotions because again, everybody deals with them differently and like I get I guess you know, I've always told people this that the number one way to really change somebody's mind, or you can't really change somebody's mind, but to change your own mind or to, have any change in your mind, I think the number one thing that does that is perspective. Nothing else affects you quite like perspective does. Because
Easily.
if you get that true perspective about how you're feeling, you're gonna be like, oh, interesting. And you have that realization, and then you have that warm feeling through that affects your body, and
No,
that
I know
is
exactly
the
what you're talking about.
it.
Sounds kind of weird and awkward, but no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and like they, you know, when you feel that, that means your mind is clicking and it understands, and it will never forget that because there are so many things that we feel that we think we've gotten over that we just haven't, and that's where trauma comes in hand. But our mind is just so fragile. It's it's honestly it's frustrating for me how little attention is being cared for mental health. Not now, it's getting there. It's definitely getting there, but physical health has always been looked at as more important than mental health, and that is ridiculous.
I yeah, I'm gonna pause you there because I just want to touch back on the whole rehab thing for yourself because I remember when you were going through that, and I remember when you told me that you're going to rehab and stuff, and I wanted to say so many things to you, but um, like we're kind of discussing now, I knew that at the end of the day, I could say all these things and try to help you feel better and yada yada yada, but like you said, it's your own perspective, your own kind of inner tuition on what you want to feel, how you want to act, who you want to be as a person, and all this stuff. So, as much as someone may be going through something, and you can definitely help someone and be there as a friend or someone that they can vent to and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, with how you feel and your emotions and your feelings and all that stuff, it ultimately just leads to yourself. Um, which honestly, like you said, is kind of exactly why mental health is getting more attention, I think. Because people are finally starting to realize that, there's all these resources out there and all this and that, but so many people are depressed because they personally are experiencing things and feel like that the resources around maybe, maybe they don't have someone to talk to or, this and that. So I agree with your statement about mental health
Yeah,
being needing to be more
yeah,
emphasized. Um,
yeah. It's sad. It's very sad.
well, what is your method to handle your emotions? I know you said you talked earlier about just feeling how you feel and all of that, but do you think it's the most important thing is having an outlet, whether that's people or a passion like music for yourself or something like that, or what do you think?
I mean, I think it all matters. There's not one thing that matters more than the other. It all matters, and it's important to have more than one coping mechanism. So, like for me, I have music, that I listen to whenever I'm feeling really down. That really helps me. I talk to friends. I walk. I go walk, you know, in the park. I experience nature because I love nature.
Yep.
It's very calming to me, and I'll shower maybe, but you you can help yourself feel when you do these things. That's what coping mechanisms are for. They are for helping you feel, and just like emotions are affect you differently than me. You will have different coping mechanisms than me,
Yeah.
and
Yep. It varies
learning
person to
them.
person.
Yep, exactly, and part of you knows what those things are. You can always learn more mechanisms to help you, but you learn pretty early on what you're comfortable and what brings you back to yourself.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
Which is a whole nother thing. You have to kind of
yes,
know yourself and um, truly try to figure out who you are and what helps you, what doesn't help you, all that kind
right,
of stuff. I would agree. What
absolutely.
well, so do you think that the rehab itself helped, or do you think your personal journey going through rehab helped? I guess my question is, was it you physically going to the rehab or experiencing the rehab and all of that that was the biggest contribution to you pushing through that, or do you think the people at the rehab center, or did someone say something that was really profound to you at the time, or what, or was it a combination of both? What do you think helped you the most?
Well, inpatient was very rough at the beginning, but I would say the number one thing that helped me learn more about myself and really change my whole perception of myself was the relationships that I made with those people, was talking to them and opening up to them because everybody, like, no one is above anybody there. Everybody
Mm,
just cares about you and wants to hear your story. And there was, oh my God, like, that was one of the most incredible experiences in that regard, was
Right.
the people, these broken people who, and I don't want to talk myself up, but it's more about like just me seeing myself for like the first time. And like these people are broken and they have trust issues and all these kind of things going on in their lives. And I befriended them so quickly, and they just wanted to be around me. And I was like, what the hell? Excuse my language. What is going on? Like, and then I realized I'm like, maybe I'm just a good person. Maybe I'm not this worthless, ignorant.
This thing that you painted about yourself, maybe it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that the image you paint on yourself will be something that everybody struggles with their entire lives. Like
Absolutely.
yeah, you are your own worst enemy, and it's very true, and it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, and it's a never ending cycle.
Yep,
Um it'll
very
be
much so.
something you constantly have to work on, and honestly you will constantly adjust as well, because your needs and wants will obviously be different as you get older. Well, that's
Yeah,
really cool, Nate. I really appreciate you being open about that experience too, because um I know for a fact there are other people who have been to rehab, and I won't say any names, obviously, but I know several people who have been to rehab, and some people are more open than others.
yeah,
But I appreciate you being open about it, man. That's awesome that the people that were, because you thought you were going to go to rehab and that you were going to be this, like you said, you had this self image of yourself being one of the worst people and yada yada, and you're broken and no one's gonna be able to help you or heal you or whatever. And then
yeah,
it's the other broken individuals and you guys collectively raising each other up that ultimately helped you the most.
yep. I
And
mean,
and
yeah,
and come out of that situation. I think that's honestly incredible.
and I mean, like that's what makes people so connected is relating to each other in any way, like,
Right.
and just trying to relate to each other. I mean, that's why you see, like, you know, I mean, I'm a Braves fan, but seeing them win the World Series last season was incredible. Not because they lost all these players and were really struggling, but because they were literally a family. That is why they won it all. You need to be a family in order to win championships. You need to be able to say, "Hey, you did bad on this. Tighten up." And also, good job. I'm proud of you, man. You need to be able to do both. If you can't, then there will always be turmoil. And that is why that team won, is because they never ever gave up on each other, and they held each other accountable, and they they put everything into it. And
Yeah.
it's a great metaphor for life.
Absolutely.
We're individuals, but we're humans. Like, I there's no reason why we should be so divided. I don't care what you may think, whatever, like politically, I really don't care. I really don't. Because you are entitled to your opinion, and it's your opinion. But there's only we're humans. You're Nobody's different human than the other. We are Homo sapiens. And yet we act like we treat some people like they're a completely different species. And it's not anger. It doesn't make me angry. It doesn't make me frustrated. It makes me sad. So,
Well, that was a speech.
I,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, it honestly doesn't make any sense why at times it feels like we're breaking others down. Um in general, not just specific to what we're talking about right now, but just bringing people down in general, and then just
yeah,
kind of watching the damage happen. I completely agree. I don't really understand that either.
Yeah.
Um, what what about your relationship with your family, your brother Connor, your significant others, your other friends? What how has that impacted your emotional sensitivity and all that kind of stuff?
Oh man.
I know.
I could talk for hours about how amazing my family is. I really could. Like, and so many people at my age I've talked to who have really abusive parents who don't listen to them emotionally and are just struggling to even function slightly.
Yeah,
And I am so fortunate that I do not have that issue because I can't think of somebody who has been more of a best friend to me than Connor, my brother, my middle brother. He has he's changed my life. He has been there for me despite everything, and
you're not getting
I
emotional, are you?
oh, of course I am. Absolutely.
He's gonna be watching this. He's gonna be listening to this and be like, "God damn it, Nate."
Well, I hope he does because
I know you mean it too. That's
I
not. Yeah, I think the people that you put yourself around can really impact you in general, but especially when it comes to the way you react to um well anything, but specifically, hardships and all that. And I think that emotionally, if you have a strong group of people who are willing to support each other, just like that um support group and when you're in rehab and all that, that goes such a long way.
yeah, it really
And
does.
I think that's the missing part that a lot of people maybe don't realize yet, or maybe do realize and are working on it right now, is having a solid group of people, whether it's your family or friends or um, whoever it is, a counselor or whatever, that's helping you and encouraging you. Because I promise you, you are not alone, and what you're feeling is completely justified. And sometimes you just need to take a step back, breathe, have someone to talk to, and kind of push you through and have that hand on your back and push you uphill. Because it's always going to be an uphill battle. At some points it's going to be more steep than others, but it's always an uphill battle. So you just got to have that support group. So I'm really happy that
Absolutely.
you have Connor and others and your family and um, other friends that are there for you, man. That's extremely, extremely important.
Yeah.
Um, in the moment, right, when you're at the lowest of your lows, you probably, at least personally, me speaking, when I was at the lowest of my lows, I thought that my bad thoughts about all the um, insults I was throwing at myself every time I would see myself in the mirror, or every time I thought I did something half-assed or poorly, when in reality it was actually completely fine, if not, you know, amazing. Um, I felt like everything that I felt in that moment, all the bad things specifically, were justified and 100% true. My question for you is, and I know the answer, would you say that the emotions and how you feel, especially about yourself, define you? Because I personally say no, and obviously you're going to say no too because you're a positive person. But um, yeah, you want to go ahead and
Yeah. Yeah. I
elaborate?
mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't, you really shouldn't judge yourself just based on, you know, in the moment emotions. But at the same time, every single emotion you feel, there is there's something to it. And I know I said this before that there's a reason for some of them, and sometimes there is no reason. There is always a reason, and the times that you can't really think of a reason, you just can't think of a reason. And um, your body knows that, though. Your body knows that there's a reason. Maybe your brain doesn't, but your body knows. And at the end of the day, no matter how you're feeling, you don't need to know the reason for something happening or for you feeling a certain way. All you need to do is you just need to be there for yourself like you would a best friend or family member.
Ooh, that's a good one, Nate. That's a good one. That's very good. Would you want your friend to say those kind of things about themselves, or would you tell them, "Hey, man, cut that shit out"?
Yeah.
That's 100% true. That's honestly, I never personally had that thought cross my mind. Um, had I in the moment, that honestly probably would have helped me a good bit. I
Yeah.
That's a new POV for me.
Yeah. And I mean, like, again, you are your biggest critic, like, and you always will be. But I, for me, I've always talked to myself. Like, I talk to myself all the time, just as if I'm having a conversation with myself. And especially with these super emotional things, because I am a very emotional guy and I have, a lot of trouble figuring it out. But just being able to talk to yourself as if you're talking to somebody else, which sounds weird, right? It sounds weird, but it's so it's so nice because that means you are giving yourself room and you are listening to yourself. Like if you can just sit down and talk to yourself as if you talking to somebody else, and you're like, oh man, how you feeling, dude? You're like, I feel like shit. Sorry, excuse my language. Excuse my
No,
language.
you don't have to excuse your language, dude. I've cursed like 6 times. This is a curse
Oh,
friend, not curse friend.
okay.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, curse friendly podcast.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, good, good. I was like, oh no, we have to redo the take.
No, no,
um,
no.
but yeah, I, I've just found that when like I was like, oh man, I feel like shit. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, tell yourself, I'm sorry. Tell yourself, you got this. I know it hurts, but you got this. Like, even if you don't mean it, even if you don't mean it, it that doesn't matter. It actually doesn't. Like, you don't have to always mean something for it to help you. It'll help you even just a little bit. It will.
Yeah, I to add to that, and not to bring in a whole nother topic. What I would like to do at some point is to kind of talk about, as a guy, how maybe the societal expectations, especially with emotions, is completely different than that of it is for women. And so I'll probably I definitely in the future want to dive into that, and also have an episode with one of my girlfriends to discuss about, because I personally, I mean, I have a girlfriend. I talk to her about how she feels and all that, but I want a woman to come on and discuss that. But regardless, I think that as a guy, and the reason why I brought that up is, as a guy, it may seem a little weird to do this, but I personally have a journal, and instead of talking to myself, I have a similar method of kind of walking my way through things, and I just write how I feel, straight up right there in that moment, how I felt in the last day or week or whatever, and then I put the book away, and then maybe I'll revisit it a few hours later or even the next day and look back and be like, huh, I felt like that then, and what is the way that I got out of that, and the way that I could in the future prevent myself from feeling that way, whether it's about myself or, you know, so and so and so and so. So yeah, I think doing some kind of personal, like, self, I don't know what you want to call it, any self love slash kind of talking your way through things, writing stuff down, all of that. I think that's a very constructive way to kind of, in the moment and after, kind of look at how you felt and how you adjusted and what you can do in the future to um, feel better. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and I mean that is a coping mechanism. Is self love. Is It's a very powerful one. It's maybe a little bit tougher to grasp, but it's one of the most powerful ones you can do, because it it's it's hard to do, but it's it's very effective. And when you can write it down or talk to yourself or whatever you want to do to, you know, just get it out, like you just will start feeling better. But also, it's not about feeling better. Like, also, people also are, like, I feel like, have this notion of, oh man, I just need to deal with my emotions, then I'll feel better. It's like, no, I mean,
Takes time to heal.
yeah, no, it takes time, and it always takes a random amount of time to recover from emotions. So you can't expect to do the same thing every time and it work. You just can't, because emotions don't work like that. They're sporadic,
Yep.
and you have to be very adjustable, and that's really hard. It's not supposed to be easy, and it's just, it's it's a work in progress for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect proof of this is something I occasionally think about is how I used to feel about certain things when I was a kid. Obviously kids and toddlers were way more emotional than humans are. I mean, shit, I used to cry I used to cry over the dumbest things, but I mean, we can't help that. It's just a way of life. But looking back at how you thought those things were a big deal and you cried about that and had a meltdown and all that, um, you got through it and it took different amount of times to get over stuff. But, you'll be 40 years old and you look back on the stuff you're feeling right now and be like, wow, I really thought that this was going to be it for me. And I pushed through. I felt how I felt. I had time to heal. And I'm a stronger and better person because of it. I think that's just something that maybe that'll help one or two people out there is, you know, you all look back at all the things that you overcame so far, and realize that in due time, maybe not in this moment, like you said, it takes time to heal, but in the future, you'll definitely look back on this situation and be like, damn, I'm glad that I pushed through that, felt how I felt, and realized that the negativities can honestly be turned into a positive experience in the end, which is hard to see in the moment. But
Absolutely. And something else I thought of that I like to tell people, is when you are feeling bad about something, a situation, sometimes there'll be people who are like, I don't understand why you're feeling bad about that. That doesn't matter. If it feels bad, if it hurts for you, then it does matter. That's all you should care about. That's all you should care about is, if it hurts you, then it hurts you. End of story. And people should really not be so judgmental about some things, because it can be the smallest thing, and they're like, "What? That's stupid. You shouldn't be." It's like, no, it's never stupid. Emotions are never stupid. They're again, they're random, and it doesn't matter what makes you upset. If it makes you upset, then it's important to you. So
100,000 trillion million% yes. You got anything for me right now, Nate? You got any questions for me?
oh, I apologize. Yeah, I guess, I for you, I guess the question that I would ask you is, how has society treated you in relation to your emotions? Because for the longest time, I've known you as somebody who's, very, who's very confident, or at least acts that way. And I've known you have some self doubts about yourself, but I've I've had this feeling that, like, you know people around you bring you up to be this Hulk, this, just this, like, beast, who've mastered everything. But
uh,
sometimes you're just not, and I feel like, you know that for me would really bother me, because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. So I just, you know, has that happened?
so you're saying that you think that, um, especially when I lived in Georgia and we knew each other in high school, that people kind of expected me to be perfect or have
Yeah. they have this
Oh,
false perception of you, and
right.
like if you didn't fulfill that, there was an issue. And but it's more about you knowing that perception and keeping up with it, maintaining it no matter what. Um, yeah,
Um, well, to start off, I am no Hulk, contrary to
right,
popular belief, I guess.
right,
No, that's a tough one, Nate, because honestly, I guess I knew, well, especially in high school, I mean, that people respected me and all of that, but I feel like in the end, the way people perceived me was because of my own personal actions. And um, at the time, I kind of, a little part of me was a people pleaser, but especially, um, well, right now, especially um, in between grad school and undergrad and all that stuff, I can't be a people pleaser because everything I'm trying to accomplish is for myself, and everything I do has to be for, um, Tanner being numero uno. And I think I think that pressure that people can put on you can be a lot, whether it's your partner in a relationship or friends and people around you. But for me personally, no, I never felt pressured by how people looked or viewed me or had expectations for me. Like if you're talking about band and, you know, being the band captain and all that stuff, no, I personally did what I did because I wanted to. I never really felt pressured by how people maybe viewed me. But also, I don't really care how people viewed me.
wow, I'm happy to hear that. I didn't know because everybody talked so highly of you. I just I it's not one of those things like I always wondered, but I just when I think about it right now, I'm just like I wonder if like I don't know. It's just one of those things where people put pressure on you because you've been a certain way, and if you don't act that way, well then you're weird or there's something wrong with you, and
True,
yeah, I
true,
feel like that's the case for a lot of people, and it sucks.
very true,
Yeah.
very true. But then also the expectations that people have on you, like I said in my answer, which I don't even know if I really answer your question. Um, Whether it's someone in your relationship that you're with or friends or something, a lot of times I feel like it kind of corresponds with putting other people's thoughts and feelings and emotions towards you as a higher priority than how you truly feel about yourself. Like you're trying to, like you said, trying to be this person, or you're trying to um, embody this strong person or whatever. When emotionally, you're on the verge of having a meltdown, and that's completely okay. But I feel like that's a misconception people have too, is trying to act a certain way because um, that's what people expect or people have experience with that person. And I think it's okay to not always act a way that you are expected to, because if, like we've said so many times, if you feel something, you got to feel it, you got to accept it. If you're normally a really happy and cheerful person, you're having an off day and 50 million people are asking you what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, that can also really mess
Right.
someone up, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 I never want to be that popular. I seriously don't. And
Oh, Nate, you're funny, man. I love it. You got
for sure.
anything else about the emotional vulnerability and all
Um,
that, or no?
yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. We've covered definitely a lot of topics.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah, I think I've basically said everything I need to say about my opinions on just, how I feel like, people should do things. But at the end of the day, um, you know, everybody does things differently. So, you know,
absolutely.
like everybody should find their own way of dealing with it. And it's not easy. It's self discovery. But try, I would say try not to be too easily influenced by what people tell you, because
Well,
I struggle with that.
I think that this whole episode won't apply to one person. I think that people can take bits and pieces, whether they agree or disagree with what we've said,
Absolutely.
and use it or not use it as they please. So yeah,
Yep.
I think so too, man. I think we've covered a lot.
Yep. It's been
Um,
good.
it's been great having you on this episode. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
And guys, comment down below if, or I guess text me, DM me, whatever you want, um, about what we would want to have on future episodes or in constructive criticism. But it's been real. It's been awesome, Nate. Good talking to you, buddy. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.